If you have an idea for a mobile app or a SaaS platform, I know what you're thinking. I can hire a developer on Upwork for $8 an hour. That's less than minimum wage in the United States. I'm just going to do that so I don't have to learn how to code. I don't have to recruit a CTO. I can just pay somebody $8 an hour and watch my app or software idea come to life. It sounds great from the surface, doesn't it? But it comes with a lot of issues if you are not careful. It can be extremely lucrative if done the right way, but for the most part, I see first-time entrepreneurs completely blow up their bank accounts and put themselves into all types of emotional problems because they were not ready and they didn't understand how Upwork developers work. Because at the surface, it seems fantastic and that you will achieve your dream outcome, but if you don't know how Upwork works and what's on the other side of the table for these developers overseas, you will blow up your bank accounts and put yourself in turmoil. I've spent over $500,000 hiring developers on Upwork. My first company, Season Share, we raised over $2.5 million from venture capitalists, and I built out a team completely off of Upwork and built out my entire software. But it turned out that a lot of the code that I was writing at that time was really poor quality code, and I had to go out and rewrite it completely from scratch. And nowadays, I'm very, very careful about when I hire people on Upwork. And in this video, I'm going to tell you 3 reasons that you should not hire developers on Upwork. And if you stay until the end, I'm going to give you the reason or the methodology for being successful on Upwork in case you don't want to learn how to build the app yourself. You don't want to get into no code. You don't want to AI code it. The 4th item I'm going to cover in today's video is how you can be successful on Upwork. So let's jump into the number 1 reason why you should not hire developers on Upwork. And that reason is the culture gap. If you are in a first world country like the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, most parts of Europe, Australia, countries where entrepreneurship and capitalism is at the forefront of their culture, there is going to be a large culture gap that you might not be aware of. You are an entrepreneur. You are thinking in terms of solving people's problems because that's what society is built around in your community. But in these countries like India, Pakistan, Nigeria, places where software engineering is a labor-based role, these people are writing code as labor. They're not typically thinking the same way as you are as an entrepreneur. That's not to say that all Indian software developers think this way. I'm from India. India has a huge startup culture erupting right now in cities like New Delhi, Mumbai, and Bangalore for sure. You can definitely find superstars in India who are entrepreneurial-based thinkers, but for the most part, where I see people fail is they hire these $8 an hour software developers who are simply just billing you time for writing code. They are doing exactly what you say because on the other side of the table, they are respecting you. They know or they feel that you have all the knowledge and that you are the person to listen to, and they will not assert any of their own knowledge because they don't feel that they have the right incentive or they don't have the right mentality, and it's not their fault. That's just how they are trained, and that's just the culture that they are brought up in. So you will quickly find yourself as the entrepreneur telling that person exactly every little thing that needs to be done. You are going to see this entrepreneur, like if you want a button to change a color, you know that that button color shouldn't be that color. Say it's like a blue button on a blue background. You would think it's common sense for that developer not to put a blue button on a blue background, but that developer is not going to do it unless you tell them to. That's just a very small example of the frustration that it can cause you. And I want you to couple that with being billed for every single minute and then you having to tell that developer every single small thing they have to do. That is going to drive you nuts, but that all starts from the culture gap. They are labor-oriented thinkers and you are product and entrepreneurial-oriented thinker. And those two things do not go together, especially if it's your first time building a startup. You need to find a developer who will actually assert some of their opinion, not too much, but to the point where you can bridge those gaps, because what's going to happen is you'll tell that person to fix something, they're going to do exactly that, but nothing more, and you're just going to spend way more time managing and not enough time actually building the business. Cool. Let's go into number 2, which is the quality of the code. This is especially the case in countries where English is not the first or even the second language. You will see a lot of code quality issues because computer code is written in English. And in countries where English is not the first language, you will see a lot of English spelling errors. And this causes a lot of issues in the long-term maintenance of the code. I have seen a lot of issues where software developers who I hire overseas do not even name variables correctly. Like if my app had the word weather, you will not believe how many different ways I've seen the word weather be spelt. And it's very hard to maintain that code if it's not written in proper English. And again, I'm not making fun of or talking shit about these people. It's just the culture they're in. And so it's sometimes very hard for us to make that connection. So what you need to be careful of is the communication, not just in the code, but also in the written communication as well. So having that strong English mindset is going to be very important for the quality of the code. Also, code efficiency. You are probably not a software developer. You probably didn't go to school for computer science, so you don't know what's efficient code and what's inefficient code. There are many ways to write the same bit of code. There's ways that take hundreds of lines of code to do the same exact thing, and then super coders can do that same thing in 20 lines of code. So it's very important that you hire somebody who knows what code efficiency is and how to optimize code. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a big bloated code base. So these are some of the other reasons that I've steered away from hiring developers on Upwork unless I am ready to manage them all the way down to the code itself. So $8 an hour typically gets you that type of situation where you have this big bloated code base, and oftentimes the code is of older generations as well, which leads me to item number 3 about why you should not hire a developer on Upwork, which is the technology stack. Typically, it's very easy for developers in other developing countries to stay behind on the technology stack. You want to build an app in Flutter today. That developer overseas might not be on the same technology curve as us in the United States. There are many reasons for that. A, they might have an Android device. United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, these are the only countries where iPhones are predominant. In developing countries like India, Pakistan, Androids are prominent. So because the technology of their devices is older, the software technology and the software frameworks are also optimized for older devices, which will make it harder for you to develop high quality code, but then also code that works on iPhones. So I've seen this time and time again where I try to hire a developer to build an iOS app, and then you don't find out until it's time to test the app on your phone that they don't have an iPhone. They don't even have Xcode. They don't have a MacBook. And again, it's not their fault. MacBooks are really expensive in these countries. They're probably using really good PCs, but how are you going to develop an iPhone app if you don't have a MacBook, right? These are the types of culture gaps that I see with $8 an hour developers that you probably didn't see coming. So it's really important in the grand scheme of things to understand the various components of software development and be able to be an effective manager of this talent. And that leads me to point number 4, which is the bonus point, and it's how to be effective on sites like Upwork. And it's to learn how to speak the language to avoid getting BS'd, for people to pull the rug from you, hold your code hostage, and just tell you things that straight up aren't true. So how do you do this? You need to learn principles of full stack software development. What's a front end? What's a database? What's a back end? How do you set these things up? How do you read and write to a database? How do you integrate with an API? How do you read API documentation? I know it sounds like a lot, but if you invest a month of your time into building your first app or a very basic MVP that has all these components, you are going to be so much better off when you hire that developer, because if they tell you, oh yeah, that feature, that weather API you want to integrate, that's going to take me 2 weeks, you can say bullshit. It's not going to take 2 weeks because you know how to integrate the API. You can go back and say, here's the API documentation, here's some sample code. It shouldn't take you more than 3 days. It shouldn't take you more than 20 hours. $8 an hour times 20 hours, I'll pay you $150. I only want you to integrate that one component. That's how you become a very successful entrepreneur in software, is by understanding the various components and then delegating the hard components while you retain control over the whole thing. I recently interviewed a couple of my builders at Ambitious Labs where we taught them how to build their MVP or their version 1 of their apps themselves. And then they go out and hire developers just to focus on small bits and pieces. They were initially quoted like $15,000 or $20,000 to build the entire app, but now they've controlled the entire app. They've built the entire app themselves and they're just assigning out small pieces to it because they know how to speak the language and they're effective managers. They also know the basics of project management using a technique that I teach called Kanban, and that allows you to delegate tasks one bit at a time to your developers and be able to effectively manage them week over week. And this is how I run my studio, where I'm running 4 different development teams right now because I know how to manage projects, I know how to recruit developers, and I know how to tell them exactly what part of the app to build on so that you can take advantage of their attention to detail. I remember earlier in the video, I might have made it seem like I was talking shit, but it's actually a fantastic strength that they have overseas, is that they have really strong attention to detail, whereas entrepreneurial thinkers might want to build too many things and they will get distracted off of the main goal. So I hope all that makes sense. My goal is not to criticize. My goal is to teach you how to leverage Upwork and build that, multi-million-dollar startup team, just like I'm doing. I have 4 Upwork teams running, but that's because I know how to speak the language. So I would not recommend any entrepreneur go straight to Upwork. I'd recommend they build the MVP themselves, learn how to speak the language before they go out to hire a developer on Upwork. And if you're interested in learning how to build your mobile app startup yourself, I invite you to join Dreams into Apps, my software accelerator, where I've taught over 1,000 entrepreneurs how to build their app ideas themselves. This works for mobile and web startups. And then we'll even teach you how to manage developers, and you'll be part of the journey with other startup founders who are doing the exact same thing you're doing. Click the link in the description to apply to join Dreams into Apps. My name is Aleem, founder of Ambitious Labs. Make sure you subscribe for more content on entrepreneurship. Take care.